All right, I'm here with Ashely Brinkman, a very good friend of mine. I've known her for several years. We're going to talk about real estate, what it's like to be a top producing agent, team leader in Austin, and how that can relate to others that are in the same situation, veteran agents. So good to have you on our podcast.
Thanks for having me. Always enjoy talking real estate and all things real estate, of course. And it's not, we talked about this, it's not too hard to chat about, right?
No, it's not. But you know, I was thinking about this when I was kind of making my notes is like, I've known you for a while, right? Like maybe 12, 15 years, maybe?
Yeah.
But I started realizing like, I don't know your background. Where'd you grow up and where are you from?
I'm from South Texas.
Okay.
So I am a Texan and I've been in Austin since 2007.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
What'd you move here for?
so I went to Texas State.
Yeah.
Got a job right after college, moved to the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my first snow and I was like, I'm out. I'm going back to Texas, which is funny now because now I'm like, I love the snow. But came back here and then felt lost. And I was like, I'm going to get my real estate license at the worst time, during the crash.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Oh, is that when you got your license?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, and I just now remember this. I remember when I first met you was in 2000, when I started Spyglass, which was 2008.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so you were friends with Ryan Campbell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Then you guys worked at that Mexican restaurant.
Yes, we used to wait tables together at ZTEJAS. So,
oh, it was ZTEJAS.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I've worked all over. I always say I've worked at all the good Mexican food restaurants in town. But I spent my first few years in real estate doing the hustle. I was doing leasing by day and running all over town. Mm-hmm. First, I started as an assistant, and then I would wait tables at night. I would get in trouble at ZTEJAS all the time for being on my phone. Mm-hmm. I was like negotiating deals in the back because, just that hustle. There wasn't a lot of business, and I was new. So I remember that time.
And so did you start with Kent Redding?
Actually, okay. Do you know Eric Meisner?
Name sounds familiar.
Yeah, I met somebody else in his office. He offered me an assistant position. Mm-hmm. Basically, I think I was getting paid like $7 an hour and lunch.
Yeah.
So just learning everything I could. And then I did leasing. Then I went to Prudential with Perry, then Kent. So a lot of names, very familiar names of all these. Sold the ones off Enfield for the developer, 1603 Enfield, some off Congress. And then finally I was ready to go on my own.
How long were you with Kent?
A couple of years.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He is a good guy. Yeah. I love that y'all did Fool's Roll.
Yeah.
Did you have a good time?
Oh, God, yeah. We're definitely going to do it again.
Oh, it's a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, you did it too, right?
I did it the year before.
Who did you do with Yvette and who else?
Yvette, Amanda Dudley, and Lockie Ely. And we were the Golden Girls. Nice. Loved our costumes, and it was a good time. I've never driven that fast for that long in my life. I was the night driver.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, everyone's lives are in my hands right now.
Yeah.
This is not good because I have a terrible driving record, but we made it.
Okay. So when you moved on from working with Kent, you were like an office manager kind of, right?
No, I was like on his team.
Okay.
The story I love about Kent is he attracts, autonomous agents. And it's kind of funny because I feel like that's the footsteps I've followed in now as a team lead is I'm like, how can I help you?
Yeah.
And I remember him being like, you want to work this open house? I was like, sure. And he's like, okay, what can I get you for working this open house? Like he wanted to pay me. And I was like, I could really use a new tire.
Right.
I think he ended up buying me a whole set on my Honda Civic.
Oh, he's so generous. I mean, he really is.
I mean, he, I think, always appreciated my hustle and like willingness to like learn and just kind of always at the office late at night, like making my own newsletters and trying to figure things out. So
yeah.
I was with him for a few years and then off to Realty Austin.
Okay. And when was that?
2014.
Okay.
So I'm at my 9-year anniversary.
And when did you start a team?
That's blurry. A couple years ago, like maybe 2018, 2019. But like, I started probably 2016, 17 with that first hire, right? That hourly assistant, someone to kind of help you stay organized because you're all over the place. And
that's okay. That is, not to interrupt you, but I think that's a really good point is that, gosh, that's the most important thing,
Yes.
I wrote an article on Inman, how to start a team from the ground up and basically started by, the articles about how I did things the wrong way, right?
Oh, yeah. I've learned so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think so. Okay, you started with your assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a licensed assistant or?
No.
Okay.
So mistake number one.
Not necessarily.
I know, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of funny when you're giving advice now to agents and like what I would have done differently.
Sure.
Is definitely paid more attention to like attributes, been a lot more clear on what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, hiring the opposite of you is key. Right. And so now I have Tasha, who's been with me for like 6 years. So I went through like a few kind of hourly assistants.
Yeah.
And then finally brought someone on who had already assisted somebody else who already knew the systems, which was nice. And, she's been with me ever since.
So you don't have a partner in your team, right?
Mm-mm.
And what is the team called?
Brinkman team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
We were real original.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to think of like original names too, you're like, where do I want to go? Am I going to stay here? Am I going to go big? Like, so just kept it to my name.
A good tip is to think of a very popular street in your city. Like Spyglass Drive.
Yeah, that's smart. Like Greystone.
That wasn't intentional, but
yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, so how many people do you have on your team right now? And I saw your post.
Yeah, I just did kind of a big hire, which might seem crazy, but I was ready. So I have Tasha's operations, and then I had an agent, and then I just hired 2 more agents. And I was really just going to hire one, but the other one was like, I really want to be on your team.
Yeah.
You have the tools I need. I know what I need, and I'm not afraid to speak up and like give me a shot, essentially. And so I was like, okay, let's do it. But the big important thing I think that I've learned because I've had a couple other agents, I've learned new agents weren't for me. I just didn't have the capacity to train, and experienced agents are where it's at. And then my own coach, I learned a lot about strength finders and like what attributes and qualities I'm looking for in a team.
Yeah.
And I've kind of learned you have to hire, for me anyway, I had to hire similar personality.
Right.
Because people are used to dealing with Ashely. So for years, it's only been the Ashely show. And then now it's like, you're going to maybe go see a house with Lauren or with Joelle or with Katie, and they need to be similar to me or else the client's not vibing.
Yeah. Well, and so we've learned that too, like with new agents. I mean, we hire newer agents.
Yeah.
Like
Which have good training systems in place. It's a lot to get that going.
Well, and so we've had that's one of the reasons why we didn't hire new agents. Now we've got great training. We could hire new agents, but I don't want to do the coin toss.
Yeah.
And so what I found is if an agent's been in business between 1 and 3 years and they've done between 1 and 3 million, especially if they were at a place that did not provide them the right tools or leads or anything, like they're going to do fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so what is your value add for your team?
The marketing component.
Yeah.
I have such a marketing brain. My ideas like don't stop. I mean, of course, it's up to, this. You can think of things all day long and tell them what to do over and over again.
Yeah.
It's up to them to execute.
Yeah.
So I try to provide, I'm pretty much always available. I don't provide leads or Zillow leads or anything like that. I'm trying to teach my agents how to bring in their own business, how to nurture, how to hang with people that they want to hang out with and attract their ideal client.
Yeah.
I'm very big on authenticity. I feel like there's enough business in the city for everyone.
Sure.
And I'm not everyone's cup of tea and everyone's not my cup of tea. And so your vibe attracts your tribe. So how do I get these agents that I have on my team, these wonderful women, to work with people that want to work with them and enjoy them?
Yeah. Let's talk about 2023 and 2022. So it's been a rough year for
most of us.
Yeah. I mean, it's not rough like 2007 and 8 and 9, but it's an adjustment. So what do you feel has happened in this year compared to the year before?
Yeah.
I'll start with that, and I got a follow-up question to that.
Well, I have an additional question. Are you speaking to the market specifically or to agents?
Both.
I think there's a lot of COVID realtors. I think there's a lot of people who got into real estate. It's always been hot in Austin, no doubt. But there's a lot of agents that probably don't have the practices of what it was like to build a pipeline and nurture people over a long period of time and really know how to market a property.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like it's not just the MLS. It's like, okay, are you doing video? Are you labeling things? Are you talking to everybody? Are you putting your house on property tours now? I went on a property tour the other day for the first time in years.
Yeah.
And it was great though. I was like, oh, hey, we have to give each other real good feedback.
Yeah. Well, and like, we last year when when interest rates shot up, we had this, like we did our listing presentation, and we actually taught our listing presentation in the way that, like, okay, we're going to teach you about how to set the expectations for price reductions.
Yeah.
Which if you haven't been in the business if you've been in business for 4 years, you didn't know what that meant in most cases, right?
Totally.
So yeah, like getting back to the basics on some of the other stuff that you and I dealt with.
And it's difficult too, because I just have a great house that I just listed in the 4.5, and I feel like I sound like such a Debbie Downer. I'm like, okay. And I feel like I almost don't sound confident, because it is, I don't say it's a crapshoot. I mean, experience does matter. And I know how to sell a house. I know what I'm doing, but it sometimes just surprises you. Like, oh, I can't believe this hasn't moved yet. We priced so aggressively, or can't believe I missed. This is what buyers are like hemming and hawing over in comparison to other houses. So setting that expectation was hard. And I even say, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer.
Yeah. To the seller.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so what do you think is going to happen next year? What's your prediction?
That's a tough one. I mean, election years typically fare better. I just wonder if things are going to be more on the up and up on Q3, Q4 than
1
2.
or 2. So, okay, here's my prediction. It could be wrong, obviously, but I think that we're going to see interest rates drop by the end of first quarter.
Does it have a 6 in front of it or a 5 in front of it?
Oh, I don't think we'll ever have a 5 when we don't need it.
Yeah.
Right. But here's the thing. What are we at, like 7.5, 8 right now, something like that? If interest rates drop 1 full point, I think this market's going to go not crazy like 21,
It'll
22.
Start picking up for sure.
It's going to pick up.
Yeah.
And we're going to be we have an inventory problem.
Yeah.
And we always will. So I'm very optimistic about next year.
Yeah.
We're getting our agents like fully trained on the leads and the nurturing and all that stuff, so that they can let their clients know, or potential clients and leads, that when the time is right, you better jump on it now, because I think we're going to see, once that happens, 1 point, we're going to see appreciation.
Here's my question for you though. Obviously, spring and summer seasonality, more buyers enter the market naturally.
Yep.
What about? And there's been a lot of sellers I've talked to now, and they're like, we want to sell. And I'm like, wait till spring. So are we going to have a surplus of buyers and inventory, or do you think it's going to be a pretty standard set of inventory?
I think, well, obviously I don't know, but I think we're going to see a normal return to the market, even if interest rates don't drop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I agree.
Because people it's like, the Blitz in London during World War II, like after a few days, they were being bombed every day and people just went about their business, I think Malcolm Gladwell wrote a piece on that, and it was really interesting about how they thought everyone was going to go crazy, and not London, Paris, right? Yeah, and they just returned to their normal, like doing their everyday stuff.
Yeah,
I hate how much people are obsessed with interest rates right now.
Yeah,
for sure, but it is what it is.
Yeah, right.
It's just educating the buyer to, okay, look, we could do a rate buy down. I will say this. It's been a bigger challenge, and I, control the controllables, right? My mindset, my attitude, and my efforts.
Yeah.
So anytime I get in a little like flustered situation, I'm like, what can I control today?
Yeah.
All right. Not to have toxic positivity of like, oh, everything's hunky dory.
Yeah.
But I try to think about the good news of the market is it's been a good challenge for me to like think outside the box. I mean, I've just been doing these seller finance deals and like running through different scenarios that I've never had to really look into before. And it's kind of good. It's good for me. You know?
Well, and I was talking about this when Cord was here a few weeks ago. Like, I personally believe this is one of the best buying opportunities in Austin that we've had in years, and we probably will have in years, because we're going to see appreciation when normalcy comes back. I don't think we're going to see, when we don't need to, 37% in 1 year. I mean, that was the record, right?
Yeah.
But
Anytime we're doing like our market comparisons, we did goal setting just yesterday for 2024.
Yeah.
I'm always like, don't look at 2021.
Yeah, right.
It was an anomaly. Don't compare your house to 2021. Don't compare there was no normalcy. What I think is kind of interesting is I talked to a couple agents in different markets. I have a client whose mom's a realtor in New York. Mm-hmm. And if you look at like New York, Bay Area, Chicago, all the cities and markets where people fled during the pandemic are booming.
Yeah.
And now Austin and some of the hotter cities are now cooling. And it was a really hot summer. I think a lot of people are like, I don't like the politics here. I don't like this weather. And I'm going back. So I do think a lot of people are actually moving. And it's not just a move up buy. Like, I don't know. I have a lot of clients moving out of state for different opportunities and it's expensive.
Yeah, it is. In some areas it is. But again, I think that we were I saw Mark Sprague speaking like earlier this year, and he's like, we're always going to have an inventory problem.
Yeah,
there's just not enough homes.
And that's what I always tell. I'm like, is it a buyer's market right now? It is.
Yeah.
But are there certain neighborhoods that's still fair weather, and they're probably not going to come down much off that price? Absolutely.
And some of them they don't have to. When you're like, we're seeing we're in a decent amount of cases, you're seeing multiple offers.
Yes. Yeah. It just depends on where in the house and how desirable of the product.
What is it like to have a work-life balance where you're at now?
What's that?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No, it's gotten way better these last few years.
Because of the team, right?
Yes, the team definitely helps, and honestly, mindset shift, especially after 2021. Honestly, and I attribute a lot of growth from my coach and really letting go of some of the reins, trusting in the people you hire. And I was maybe a little bit of a micromanager, but also there's just things that I really enjoy doing. And my favorite exercise to tell agents, especially kind of those a little bit like 3 million plus producers who are kind of heading down that road of their first hire, is the exercise where you draw a line down the center of the paper and draw it across. And you're like, what do you love doing and you're really good at? And if you can stay in that zone, I have pretty good days because it's like, okay, I'm solving problems. I'm talking to people. I'm doing a little marketing. Those are my favorite things to do. Yeah. Whereas everything else, it's like, oh yeah, can you send that out for me? Can you do this?
And that's a hard mindset to do. But I got to tell you, I've mastered it now. Like,
good.
When we have like our leadership meeting and like, there's a decision to be made, and like even decisions, I'm like, I don't care.
What do you think was the shift?
I think what the shift for me was really having good people that you really trust. Like our leadership team is really solid. And I've gotten to the point where in so many cases, I value their opinion over mine, especially like with Sunny, she's not going to speak up about something unless she really feels passionate about it. And if she does, I'm like, even if I feel like I'm right, I'll be like, all right, fine. Obviously if I feel like I'm really right, but if it's something, that I'm on the fence about, then I'll let it go her way.
It's funny because me and you are similar in being kind of more outgoing and boisterous, and I have to push my operations to definitely speak up. Like, I'm like, what do you think? Tell me. And then sometimes she'll hold back and then she'll say something later. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me?
Yeah.
Like, I can handle it. Like, it's okay. I'm okay with being wrong.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I want to hear, I'm trying to encourage everyone to always give. I'm like, this is the way I was doing it, but we don't have to do it this way.
Yeah.
If we need to tweak the systems to make it more efficient, go for it. Who knows what I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah. No, for sure. There's such a relief when you have that,
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about Austin again. You've been here for a while. And I had this conversation. I'm at that Zillow Unlock event, and there's a couple people I talked to that lived here like 10 years ago, and they were talking about all the change. How have you seen Austin change in the past, 12, 13 years?
So much change.
Yeah.
I mean, pros and cons.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
We have great food now. We have like a lot of things to do.
If you can get a reservation.
True. You need someone on your team that does this. This is what I have. I have a marketing girl who helps with that. She'll try to score us reservations so we have places to go to with our clients months out.
Months out. But I'm not that forward thinking when it comes to food.
It's nice. Well, it's nice because then that week it comes up and you're like, oh, Thursday at Abba. Okay.
Yeah.
There, Yeah, we have a great food scene, and I feel like so many things, so much attractions. And as someone who owns Airbnb, which people probably hate that, but it does bring in a lot of business that way too.
Yeah.
Cons, obviously, I actually feel like traffic
isn't as bad as I thought it was. I still don't think it's as bad as it was like 2019.
Huh. I don't deal with traffic.
Lucky.
Yeah.
I don't deal, going back to like work-life balance, because I'm not really showing buyers anymore. I don't deal with it as much. It's only my own personal appointments that I stupidly set at 5 p.m. But traffic, and then just, like, I mean, I'm happy we got a little bit of the homeless stuff cleaned up.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. There's always gonna be ongoing problems. And I don't know. It also, property taxes. It's gotten pretty ridiculous, and utilities. I just feel like in general it's expensive.
Yeah.
And I know it's expensive everywhere and inflation is up, but it just feels like definitely a pinch, more so than in years past.
Yeah. All right. What is final question? Final question. What's one piece of advice you'd give an agent who's either somewhat newer or maybe a veteran agent that is having a slump right now?
There's so much advice that I could give.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to go back to our like word of the year for next year. And I just had this talk with my team, and we talk about it all the time. Consistency. Yeah. Got to go back to the basics. And I always say your database is your central nervous system.
You know, it's funny. we hammer that into agents, and it sounds like such a cliche thing to do, to say, but there's truth in it. You know, I tell people, put a sticky note, whether it be real or proverbial, right, on your laptop, says add 5 people per day. Right. And what I mean by that is, like, you're not picking people out of anywhere. Like, you have the sticky note, you're going to look on Facebook, you're going to Instagram, you're going to your email, you're going to go.
Just being more intentional.
With that and develop relationships.
I don't know if I told you this or if you know it, but I just started doing a social media class for realtors.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
It's been really fun, and I've learned a lot because it's my first course. So of course I'm asking them a lot of feedback, and it's the blend of like super easy basics. Yeah. It's like, hey, think about this. And then also the big picture. Like, what is my brand? What is my overall messaging? Yeah. Like, what do I stand for? What are my values? But I feel like what agents are really bad about, and it's a good thing, they're very client centric. Yeah. And they get their head in the deal and they're working with the client. Agents are terrible at marketing themselves. Yeah. And I usually say, I'm not that great of an agent. I'm just really good at marketing myself. Yeah. And it's just about kind of being out there and
that's not true, by the way.
Well, thank you. Yeah. There's still a lot of stuff I don't know. Yeah. But I think that just making an intentional effort. I hate the word prospecting. Yeah. But that intentional effort of like, how am I getting out good information, the value add every day?
Absolutely. And that's what good marketing is adding value.
So it's basically like 5 pieces of advice for any agent.
Yeah. No, it's great.
I'm like your database, consistency, marketing yourself.
Which brings us to our very last thing. Yeah. Tell us where people can find you.
Oh, yay. The plug. My big platform obviously is the gram. I'm old enough that I'm still on the gram, but not on the talk. So me too. At I Heart the ATX. And then I've started doing YouTube now because a lot of my videos are so much longer and you can really get more information on YouTube. I love YouTube. So Ashely Brinkman. Yeah. All right. And AshelyBrinkman.com.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Anyway, thank you.
Take care.